I'm talking to Michael in Ohio. Michael, what's going on?
Hi. I would like to talk about Christianity and specifically, instead of Jesus, more about Satan. And
cool.
I'm an atheist myself, but I look at how Christianity and specifically this belief in Satan has had an effect on our society and how it lays the bedrock for a lot of these conspiracy theories, because, Satan's, according to the myth, is out there doing these nefarious acts and up to all kinds of mischief and trying to lead people astray and all this. And it just seems like things like QAnon and a lot of these other conspiracies kind of fit that mold. And how do we as a society manage this stuff, to address it,
Michael, I've been trying to figure out the answer to this question for a long freaking time. Okay. And let me tell you, I don't have a lot of good answers for you. I have some guesses, and I think we really need to consider restructuring the way that we give each other information in our society. And I'm talking about the way that we do social media, the way that our algorithms work, right? Everybody talks about the algorithms these days, but what I mean by it is people talk about this free speech thing, like, oh, everybody should be able to post whatever they want. And to some degree, I agree with it, but there's also real world harm that comes to this. Here's the thing. We never had free speech on Facebook. We never had free speech on Twitter. We never had free speech on YouTube. There was always terms of services for all of these platforms. And on top of this, these algorithms that are recommended to us we're already there. It already affects the way that we see your information. So the whole free speech thing is screwed from the very beginning, in my opinion. So when people talk about these free speech arguments, how it's violating it, it doesn't matter. These are private companies making their own decisions as to what goes on their platforms or not. Until it becomes a public utility, then we can talk about how to regulate that. But until then, we can't really do much outside of what's already federally legislated. But let's go even further, right? What do we do? Let's say we have control over Facebook and Twitter and all these places. What do we do with that? Well, what have we tried before? I mean, we've tried having terms and conditions on certain stuff that can't be uploaded. You can't upload nudity on YouTube, right? That's one example. They've tried keyword stuff. So there's a potential that, somehow Truth Wanted's been okay. But other shows and other content creators I know have been hit all the time with violations of automatic filters they put in that affects their revenue because they make money off of this stuff. So that seems like it can be iffy. I don't know. I don't know what the best thing is. I try to do this show. I try to talk to people about it in my own personal life, and I try to do the best I can as an individual. But I'm not a software engineer. I'm not someone who studies this stuff professionally. I'm just a guy on the internet that has opinions on things sometimes, and people like to hear it for one reason or another. But the best thing you can do as an individual, I think, is to talk to people around you and have directly those conversations yourself, because you can be a great influence in somebody's life that a post on social media might not ever be, because you're there and you get to talk to that person and their strengths, their weaknesses, their personal history with stuff. And you can almost work better than any algorithm could in that sense, although that might not be true forever. AI is getting pretty good these days. But point is, I think that's what we have to do. I think maybe it's not everybody can't start call-in shows, but you can talk to the people in your life, and you can try to have these conversations one day at a time with folks, and people's minds do change. I'm an example of that. Dr. Josh is an example of that. And tons of other people have called into the show are examples of that. So don't give up hope. There is hope. I have to tell myself this too, but there is hope. People do change, and it just starts with just one conversation at a time. But anyway, that's my take. Dr. Josh, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that teaching people to think critically and encouraging them to critically examine what it is that they believe, and doing it on that local level, in my experience, which again, take with a grain of salt, but is very effective, because there are probably 10 or 15 people that I interact with, on a weekly basis, and having these types of sort of sporadic conversations where, I've had those conversations very unexpectedly with, a family member that said something akin to, well, yeah, I mean, maybe the earth is flat. It's like, okay, well, let's think about that for a second. I didn't expect that somebody that I know so well would say something like that. But, then engaging at that level and saying, all right, I guess I see why you say that, but what if we think about it this way? But I do think that on an individual level, that's where you're most effective, because you don't have the group think that you're trying to pull them from. So,
yeah, Michael, if you were Mark Zuckerberg, I'd have some strong words to say to you, but you're not. You're Michael from Ohio, and this is the best we can do. Yeah. Okay? Sound good?
Right.
All right, cool. That's all the time we got right now, Michael. We got to wrap up this show, but thanks for calling in. I hope that was good for you, as it was for me.